Good evening, members of Spiritual or Cryptid Encounters. How's everybody doing tonight? For those who follow over stream, YouTube, Facebook, and for those who follow my several TikToks under HCS895, how's everybody doing this evening? Hope everybody's doing well. I'm sending this link to groups that I shared to on Facebook real quick.
You need anything to bring it
How you doing, brother Andres? I'm hanging in there, brother. Allergies are getting the best of me. Yeah, I'm all shared out right now. Yeah, man, allergies has been pretty bad for about a week now. I don't know if you've been watching the lives. Sometimes get stuck in my throat, things in my throat and my eyes. It's pretty bad here in Texas right now. Allergies. The pollen is bad, and I'm waiting for my medicines to come in through the mail, but they haven't come through. So I've been taking Benadryl stuff right now, but that ain't working. So I'm just hanging in there. I took me 2 pills just a few minutes ago to see if it kills some of the itching I got in my eyes. All that allergies and stuff. That could be a spiritual opening, because that's where the unseen forces target tear ducts, your eyes. Uh, what's that saying with your eyes? Uh, the opening to the windows or something like that. Um, your nostrils, your mouth, your breathing, any kind of breathing, seeing, hearing. You know, sometimes you get air going to your ears. You know, is it really air, or is it the disembodied demonic Nephilim that's infiltrating and trying to attack? I don't know. My system has been running kind of weird. Uh, I don't think I'm being shared out like I'm supposed to be by YouTube. I'm doing restream right now, but yeah, it's just been running real strange. Yesterday, tried to do it off of YouTube, and so yesterday or the day before, I did a live off of YouTube, and it wasn't that good. So tonight I'm just going solo here. Tonight is open mic night. For those who would like to jump on, I will drop a link. If you want to hang in there on the panel, or if you got a story to say, you're more than welcome to join. So I'm dropping this link right now. Yeah, I haven't, man. I didn't work out yesterday. I had some pain in the neck area. As you get older, you start feeling the aches and pains of the accidents you've been in and stuff like that. In which, when you put your body on the line, being in the military, you tend to uh, be in a lot of accidents. But I'm still here in spite. When you give it 100%, you want to give the best of your ability to the job you're doing. Yeah. So now that I'm older, I have a lot of aches and pains, but that's okay. I need to get back in the rhythm of doing my workouts. I just can't. Uh, the allergies has been pretty bad, so sometimes I just go with what my body is telling me, and it's telling me to relax. So I'm relaxing. Give it a CC. Maybe I'll work out tomorrow. I don't know. Or I'm gonna take the week off. I do plan to take a road trip at the end of the month. So we'll see. Sometimes when you get a certain age, either you're going to be motivated to do something, or it just ain't going to happen. You got to set in your mind and do it. And I guess with the allergies and that I have, and I don't know, I just haven't been feeling up to it. A lot of things happening spiritually around me that people wouldn't understand. Uh, I just go with the flow of things, brothers and sisters. I used to do some severe workouts, some maybe workouts in the past, and I've always implemented weights in my workout regimens. And this is like, man, like a week now. This week I haven't really done nothing. Another week just started, but I need to get back in the groove of things, like really stay focused and do my daily workouts. But here we are. There's a link for those who would like to join and share something. I know I do the lives a lot, and I put in a lot of time in the lives that I do here in Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters. So I don't know if just doing lives is taken away from the motivation of how I normally am during the day when I do my workouts. It's a possibility that is happening. So I don't know. I might have to readjust the time frame of when I do the live feeds. Instead of going late at night, maybe do it earlier so I can be able to implement my cardio, my workouts during the day. Because how I find myself during the day is when I finish doing the lives, I can go to sleep. So I'm up till 9, 10, 11 in the morning, and then I'm trying to go to sleep, and I'm going back and forth, back and forth. By the time I go to sleep, I wake up, it's already 6:30 or 7:30 or 8 in the afternoon. So I'm really gonna have to do something that, or lower down the times of when I do a live. Cut it down to 2 hours or anything. But sometimes when the conversations is good, you just go with the flow of things. But yeah, but I'm not. I don't feel sick. It's just I have to get motivated again. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about doing. Just a lot of things. You see all the things that are happening around the world, and me, I'm focused on trying to awaken everybody spiritually. But there's some people that just don't want to awake spiritually. That they're already chosen how they want to be. If they're going to be assholes, they're going to be assholes. If they're going to be terrorists, they're going to be terrorists. So what do you do, Donald Trump? If they're going to be terrorists, let them be fucking terrorists. Leave them the hell alone and let them do whatever the hell they're going to do to each other, because then they don't know better. And by using more violence, is not nothing good is going to come out of it. You know, the apostles used to go to people's homes if they felt that wasn't welcomed. They would wipe the feet and walk out. Well, I don't think the United States is welcomed over there in those countries where they have ongoing violence daily. They're used to it. It's part of the lifestyle. So I suggest, why even step in the damn country if we're not welcomed? I mean, they don't believe in Jesus Christ. Because if they did believe in Jesus Christ, and I'm just letting you know, that goes for both parties that are out there. Uh, I believe the last words Jesus Christ said was, "Don't forsake them. They don't know what they do." So I might just record this and send it to Trump instead of come out on the news cussing. Maintain your love foundation, Donald Trump. Maintain your love foundation, your faith and believe in Jesus Christ. If you sleep with the enemy and be with the enemy, then you're gonna be like the enemy, and that's exactly what you're doing. Where's your faith? Where's your belief? Where's your belief in Jesus Christ? What would he do? Sometimes things are predestined to be a certain way. Sometimes things are going to happen the way they're going to happen because there's nothing that you or anybody in this world can do about it, because it's meant to be that way. Instead of worrying about the Israelites and the Iranian people, Iran fighting each other, how about give me my 100% of my disability? How about that? Just like you're making the efforts in these terroristic countries, make the effort and give me my 100%. I've been waiting here for a very long time, and y'all keep on bullshitting me. Every time I try to do something, you always give me the cold shoulder. How about get your head out of your asses and do the right thing for the veterans that don't serve this country proudly? You're worried about a terroristic country. Get the hell out of here. You ain't no different. You ain't no different than freaking Biden or Obama. You're doing the same shit they're doing. Worry about our country, our nation. I mean, you got ICE securing the borders, which is a good thing. But what about the people that are homeless in the United States? All the homeless people. Clean up the streets of all the drug addicts. Do something. Make a positive change in our country before you try to make changes somewhere else. No, it's any person that's power, they're being controlled by a higher echelon. They're just being used as a pawn. There's always a puppet master controlling everything that nobody knows about. It's a corrupt, got a corrupt government, if y'all don't know, by the way. Not just our government, all the governments are corrupt. The same corruption that's here in the United States is a same corruption that's around the world. If you believe your country is that good, then you're being wrongly mistaken because every country is corrupt. Every city, every town has corruption. It's part of the balance between good and evil. It exists everywhere. So it's just over there in Iran and Israel, they'll strap on a freaking bomb on themselves and go kamikaze, man, and blow up a building with innocent people. That's how they are. That's why I understand what he's even doing over there in the first place. If it was the the home of Jesus, then why is it all rubble? Why is it a place that's not livable? Why is there so much violence and anger and terroristic things there happening? Say he's coming back, but he's not going to come back with talking about love, a love foundation, a heavenly love foundation. He's coming back to take care of business, spiritual warfare, and a lot of things are going to be dealt with. I'm just saying, man, that's what I see. I try not to look at the news. I don't try to look at listening, or even on YouTube. Shit pops up on YouTube. I don't try to look too much of that. There's a lot of things on AI. I see all the people whining and crying on Facebook. People on my friends list uh, crying about what Trump is doing, but then look at the fucked up president that they had, or it was wicked. It's like, how do you want me to hear you crying and bitching when the person you had there didn't do shit for nobody in the United States? He was only filling his pockets. To me, honestly, all these people should be arrested for corruption. Every single one of them. If they have millions of dollars now, when their pay doesn't say that they're making millions of dollars, then there's something ain't right there. And the government should look into that. It should be no slap on the wrist. They should be freaking took to court and be thrown in prison for stealing money from the government, or should I say, being involved in criminal activity. I'm sorry, I'm just talking a little bit. Like I said before, I wasn't feeling too well because of the allergies, but here I am. I think Sarncias is talking right now. Sarncias will tell you how it is, tell you straight up. He don't sugarcoat anything for anybody. Doesn't matter uh, what who you're affiliated with the government. He doesn't care what nationality you are. He doesn't care about that. He's just going to tell you straight up how it is. And sometimes you have to be that way. You have to be straight up with people and tell them how it is, even if they get their feelings hurt. So long you speak your truth is all that matters. Speak your truth. I used to do that all the time in the military. Some people liked it, some people didn't. That's okay. So long I got my message across, that's all that mattered. Get Sister Rain. They're all wicked. I'm just saying that Our government is corrupt. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. All the people there are corrupt. There's a lot of evil people working both sides, and it's deeper. It's deeper than politics. That's what I'm trying to say. It's dealing with what they worship, and it's not Jesus Christ. They'll use a verse out of the Bible to make it seem like they're a person of God, but by their actions, they do the opposite. Where are they? I'm just saying that we all know because we all were tuning in when Biden cheated to win his presidency. We were there to witness, everybody witnessed that, how it happened, and nobody did nothing about it. It's kind of like somebody's robbing you out of your money, out of your wallet, and you know they're robbing you, but you're letting it happen because you say to yourself, well, maybe that person needs some money. Yeah, we've seen it when the election got stolen, right? From Trump. We've seen that. They cheated to the mail-in ballots. They tried to do it again this past time. It didn't work. That's how corrupt the government is. It's like you can keep everybody freaking happy. If you don't want to be pissed off all the time, get out of the politics because that's what's making you be pissed off all the time, right? Wondering, acting like Chicken Little. Oh, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Well, get the mentality out of your head. That's why I don't turn on the TV. I haven't been watching the news for a very long time. If I watch something happening, it's because what people say or what pops up on Facebook. But I don't even trust Facebook because I remember when Facebook, uh, anything you did said about a certain individual, they will ban you, they will block you from making lives, from placing any kind of stuff on there, right? You know what they were doing. There's a lot of wicked people, you know, uh, corrupt people, evil people, and those are the evil people that you're voting for. You voted for already. Obama was one of them. Like I said, just about every president is corrupt somewhere or the other. Y'all voted for him, so I don't like people crying about when they tell me about Trump. It's like, well, at least he's doing something, trying to do something. He's trying to do something with everybody trying to stop him because it's kind of like this. How I see it with Trump. It's kind of like he's president right now, but imagine if he was in charge of where the babies give birth, and all you have is all these babies crying, and he's there spazzing out, stressing because all the babies are crying. Well, that's the way it is right now. That he's worried about terrorist countries. He shouldn't be over there. You know, uh, I'm not. I don't get into politics. I don't look into the past because the past is the past. It's just uh, all I'm saying is why worry about another country that they just dwell in negativity? You should be focused in this country. Even you have to clean up the streets with people protesting violently. Call the National Guard. Lock all them people up for all I care. If you're not acting like an American citizen, lock them up. Talking about we got freedoms. Yeah, we got freedoms. I fought for freedom in the front lines, but doesn't give you the freedom to freaking go after people, right? Become a vigilante. because you didn't get your way, because y'all lost an election. That's what happens, man. It's just fucked up. Everything's fucked up. Yeah, I'm just a veteran trying to survive, man, in this world. I just see all the fucked up shit. I always see the cold shoulder the VA gives me. You know, they're trying to feed me all kinds of medicines. I don't want to take them, and they keep on pursuing at me. They want me to take this. I said, no, I'm not taking that shit. I tell them, I'm not taking that medicine. I know what y'all trying to do. So and they've been doing it for a long time. It doesn't matter who's president. They've been doing that against the veterans for a very long time, taking out veterans through the VA facilities. Who's in charge of the VA facility? If you go into the VA facilities, they got a picture on the wall of the president and the vice president. Those are the people in charge. That's their chain of command. So figure that one out. When they talk about we're expendable. So they get mad because I don't want to take the pills that they're trying to give me that I know that it's going to cause major issues, right? I said, screw that. I'll tell them straight up, brothers and sisters, just like I'm telling you right now. So I'm not taking that. Well, the medicine that we're trying to give you it's going to make you retain water, and that's it's not that bad. I said, no bullshit. I'd rather have my legs the way they are. I don't need no retainment of no water. I'm fine. I don't need those pills. Well, if you don't want those pills, then how about if we give you the shot? This shot will help you lose weight and this and that. Yeah, lose weight because it's going to cause all kinds of side effects to your body that is going to mess up your immune system. Hell no, keep that shot and you can take the shot for all I care. So they try to feed you all this crap that at the VA that you got this, you got that, and trying to give you the worst case scenario when it's not even that bad that what you have, and they're just trying to give you more and more and more meds to take you out. I'm not buying that. It's crazy, man. I'm gonna drop a mic. I dropped the link again. Whoever needs wants to come on here because I'll keep on talking. I'm just saying, man, that is fucked up on both sides, straight up. And there's a lot of things that I don't agree with that certain people placed in part of that it's okay to be 400 genders, 200 genders when it's not. There's only two genders. If you believe there's 400 personalities of you, then you're demonized. There's something truly wrong with you if you think you have 400 personalities. You don't know if you're a boy or a girl. All you got to do is grab your hand, go to your groin area and feel. You feel a tallywhacker, you're a boy. You feel bush or no bush, then you're a female. Look at your birth certificate. It'll have your little feet on there. It'll tell you if you're a boy or a girl. Go look at the footage when you were born. Maybe they'll pop a balloon and blue will come out, or pop a balloon and pink will come out. That's telling you're a boy or a girl. How hard is it to understand what you are? And all this crazy women having a boy wanted their son to be a girl. That's crazy. That's unfit to be a parent. I would suggest give the child to somebody else that's going to care for him and guide him the proper direction. A lot of crazy people in this world. I'm just saying, man, he's just some crazy stuff. I've seen some crazy things. I mean, I can be a very nice guy and not just mind my own business, not say nothing, but golly. Then people have to look into the past, try to make somebody's wrongs right, try to make point finger somewhere else, but wrong is wrong. Wrong is wrong, right? And that's the bottom line. You can look into somebody else's past to compare and to try to say this person is not wrong, but if he's wrong, he's wrong. If he's ate up, he's ate up. If he's fucked up, he's fucked up. You know. He took the night off. He's not going to be here tonight. He's got an early morning appointment. I told him take all the time he needs because I'm going to continue to do the show regardless. But he's got an early morning appointment. That's why he called it a night early. No difference in the fear mongering that they were doing with the COVID or the virus that was happening that was supposedly killing a lot of people. It wasn't the virus killing people. It was the machines that they were putting them on that was killing the people. For every patient that they placed on one of those machines, they were getting paid pretty good amount of money. The hospitals were getting paid. So I couldn't imagine. Uh, Basically, what that was the same thing they do in China. Because you remember, for those that had the President Biden, he was affiliated with China, just like Obama was, right? Well, in China, what they do every year, it reminds me of that movie. But I can't remember the name of the movie. But in China, what they do every year, they come up with a new virus every year. So they order the people to take these shots because there's an epidemic going on. So China's been wearing masks for a very long time. 30, 40 years ago, they've been wearing masks because they want to downsize their population. That's what it was about. Downsize the population because they had too many people. That you had a boy or a girl, you had to pick which one you want, a boy or a girl, and that's it because it's so overpopulated. So when they create this virus over there in China, is to downsize the people, take out the people, right? That's what they do. Well, guess the United States decided to follow through, try to do that themselves, and we lost a lot of people. And that's a form of fear mongering when they're telling you there's something happening, but it's really the hospitals, the government taking out the people with the ventilators that they had and stuff like that. You had black widows running crazy at the hospitals and at the nursing homes, having a field party because they do exist there. Because they came after me, and I'm still here a long time ago, before there was any virus. So yeah, there's some real evil people in this world that if Soren sees us, will meet these people, I will have no mercy on them. because of what they tried to do to me. But thank God that they haven't crossed paths with me because I remember. When you go through something, you remember. You remember what they tried to do. You never forget. So when there's war, there's violence, there's bombs flying around, there's bullets, family members are dying. What happens? You start having, so I got to avenge my father's death. I got to avenge my brother's death. So they're going back and forth because there's unforgiveness, there's hatred, there's anger, there's death, there's murders, beheadings, you name it, rape in these countries that till they correct the problem of really coming up with a, it's going to be hard for the country to have peace. That's what I'm trying to say. Any kind of peace, because there's so much anger and hatred and vengeance, and which are all those are spiritual openings for the unseen to continue the division, the hatred, the anger, the violence. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I didn't take no shots, and I'm still here. I'm hanging in there. They tried to get me to get shots at the VA. I told them nope. I don't need them. I don't take the flu, the swine flu, or none of that stuff. Oh no, I'm not upset at all. I'm just talking. I'm just being straight up right now, Lori Gibbs. I mean, you just popped up. If you would have been here at the beginning, you would have heard when I said that. What I said, you can watch the replay. I mean, I can repeat myself, but just watch the replay. I'm just talking in general here. Is open mic night, so I figured if nobody wants to jump on, I'm just going to talk because I have a lot to say. I don't know who this Lori is. Okay. How come people have to jump in the lobby and instead of listening on the conversation of what I'm talking about, they have to cry like they're a victim of something? I don't understand. I mean, you come in here, ask a question. You could respond to what I'm saying, to something that I'm talking about. Uh, but you come in here and you wanted to make it about you. I'm giving you the platform to make it about whoever's here. The platform of the show here for tonight is for y'all. So I'm gonna drop a link. If I'm gonna drop in the link again, if you don't want to jump on and talk about what you want to talk about, there you go. There's a platform. It's open mic night. I mean, I'm more sure you can read. Instead of asking a question, look what the title says. It says open mic night, spiritual encrypted encounters. I'm dropping the link. I'm just talking about things. If you're being offended by what I'm saying because I'm speaking my truth, well, suck it up, Buttercup. I'm just speaking my truth. You can speak your truth if you like. I dropped the link. No, I'm just talking what's going around and happening right now in the world. That's what I'm talking about, right? So I'm just being honest about how messed up it is. Why can our government worry about what's happening within the United States, right? Any country has to have secured borders, in which the reason to secure the borders so the enemy won't infiltrate, right? Because no different than what's happening over there in uh, with Iran and Israel. They're invading their borders. They're invading each other, attacking each other. You know, you can have a secured borders. Your country has to be secured, just in case the enemy comes and infiltrates and tries to attack, which is a must. How you doing, Sister Edna? How you doing, Brother I understand, Lord Gibbs. Uh, you- you're coming in here interrupting the chat, saying things, you know. So I'll solve the problem right now. And I try to be a nice guy, man. But people come in here and just trying to interrupt the show. I boot them out. I don't play around. Let me go to YouTube now and I'll boot that person out too. Mm. I kicked her out of off of Facebook. Do y'all see her there on? I don't see her no more. So I boot her out. Let me see what we got here. Says all this time my Buddha had I was raised. If you don't have nothing to say, don't. Scott, you need to close out your YouTube. That's what Sister Madeline says.
Yeah, I did that already. Maybe
Okay.
I'll try to get back in again. I think I did it too soon. So
All right.
let me close that out and come back in. All right.
Yeah, I just dislike when people come in here and I'm trying to just speak and they're being they have to make it about themselves. You know, I'm giving you the platform to speak. If you have something to say, hey, jump on the link. But don't be coming and trying to tell me things on the chat when you have it's open mic night. You have the opportunity to say something. I can debate things. I'm just talking out of my point of view of what I see, how messed up it is. I just don't try to focus on that because it's negative. I try to focus on staying positive, on maintaining a love foundation. But I'm just saying how bad it is. Why there's so much. There's still people killing each other because there's nothing but evil there. The only way you can overcome that is not by using force or dropping a nuke or anything like that or dropping bombs. Negativity is going to make it positive. You have to do it differently, right? Spiritually. That's how you do that. Yeah, yesterday we had a troll came in here and it was just talking nonsense. It sounded like they were on crack because it didn't make no sense. So I booted him out, and then you had this person. I don't even know who it was. I booted her out. I don't got time to people to come in and disrupt the show. No, I'm just talking right now. People say, "Oh, she was trying to. Oh, you upset? I'm not upset. I got allergies. Allergies are pretty hot and heavy. I don't got no medicine for it, so I have to take some over the counter for right now till my medicines come in through the mail. Uh, but look, just by talking about things that are happening around the world, you know, people think, "Oh, he's mad." I'm not mad. I'm just talking about how mad the world is. The world is very mad, crazy. Yeah, we have to talk about it. So how you doing, Scott Breaker?
Well, pretty good. Pretty good, Abe.
No,
Yeah, I've got allergies too, man. I got hit like a week ago, and it's like I haven't had a cold in years, and this thing is just like, man. So I got the expectorant and all that business, and so, anyways, the end of that
yeah, my
story.
eyes have been burning pretty bad for about a week. I just took some over the counter pills, uh, waiting for my medicine to come through the mail. Through the VA, you can either pick it up or they chip it send it through the mail. So that's what I'm waiting for. It hasn't gotten here yet. So my eyes have been very red and very, very itchy. Uh, Tears coming out of my eyes. Pretty bad. Getting swollen underneath my eyes from the retaining of water there.
Yeah, YouTube has a lot of like home remedy stuff and commercials through their different channels now, and there's a lot of homeopathic pushing a lot of homeopathic things right now. I mean, over the last year, um, which I find very interesting because whether it's weight related or eyes, ears, nose, and some of it's gimmicky. You have to be discerning on it all, um, and so there's a lot of information coming out. About I mean, this planet. When you think about it, I used to live out in the country, and we would eat off the land. I mean, we would pull turnips, and eat turnips, and we would eat mint, and I'd be chewing on sassafras root, and yeah, we were always starving, but because there was no fast food restaurants out in the country, anything like that. So you kind of like you ate off the land and stuff, and I think honeysuckles and all these berries or this or that, and um, there's a lot of nutritional value on all that stuff, and uh, I think God has made this planet like everything is there for us. I mean, think about this: the Aboriginals. that are in like, off of New Guinea or somewhere like that, they don't, they don't get sick. They don't get vaccinated, and yeah, their life is rough, because they don't have the modern conveniences, but, they're eating all these different herbs and smoking this and that and all that kind of stuff. So just getting into this, this drug stuff a little bit. I think God has put everything on this planet for us to, survive and be healthy. It's just, we just have to find out. I mean, I lived over in Asia, and there's so there's so many crazy things over there that, that they use for medicine. It's not like witch doctor stuff, but it's uh, because they don't have the pharmaceutical industry. And this was way back in the 70s where I was over there. And but I think this planet, each country, and when you look at the different countries of the world, it grows its own different types of like plant life and tree life and roots and all these certain things, flowers and different stuff. And I mean, look how magnificent really this planet is. I mean, who do you think, you think this, there's an architect involved with this, it's an architect who invented, who put all the stuff here. I mean, and I just think the industries, oil industries and, these elites came up with these ideas, just to like take all that away from us, the natural herbal, stuff and, banning this and
to
that.
make you sick, so you can
Yeah,
depend on their pharmakia.
exactly.
And
This
then
stuff was
they
all,
say, "Oh, this is going to make you better, but it makes you worse." And then they keep on adding more pills on you, which the pills have a negative side effect on your immune system in your body.
yeah. Well, I developed bronchitis because I went into a swimming pool that was over chlorinated. And I had like 3 doctors who were on vacation. I was like 9, 10 in Virginia. I think it was like Washington, D.C. or something. And I couldn't breathe. And, so eventually, I lived in these humid climates that, especially in the winter, you have mold in the winter in these humid climates, and that activates the bronchitis. Well, I no longer live in those climates, and I never had bronchitis again. So, there's a lot of environmental climate issues that, that you don't get asthma or bronchitis or, other illnesses too in different states you live in. And that's what I've lived in, all kinds of different states. So, but anyways, I'm just trying to say that this pharmaceutical, that I was using these breathalyzers and all that stuff, and and that's even damaging more of your bronchial tubes. These asthma, things you put in your mouth and pump, the epinephrine or whatever it's called to open up your airwaves. And all these types of pills. I mean, they do work temporarily, but in the long run, it's best to, maybe move out of that state, and, thank God, I think, I had moved from that state simply because I think I was allergic to like mold. That was the culprit, mold trip, in a wet, cold climate. That mold, it gets into the carpets and through your AC system and everything, unless you have a HEPA filter system, to filter out all those, particulates. So not to get too much into that, but I think getting back to these homeopathic, remedies and different things, there's all kinds of stuff on YouTube about that now, and but again, I got this cold and I had to go back to the, the pharmaceutical place and get my, my expectorant, and take that because it's like, well, I got to do something, it's temporarily. But yeah, I got a few stories to tell you, unless you want to keep going on.
Go ahead, brother. I'm gonna go do something real quick. Talking
Okay.
about medicine, I forgot to take my nightly dosage, so I will be right back,
Okay.
and
All
I'll
right.
leave you on the camera.
Okay.
You can
So, folks,
start sharing your encounter or your story.
okay, folks. I think I shared this once before, but I wasn't able to get on the live stream because I didn't know how. So one of the ladies here told me kind of what to do, and then because I was searching on like how do I get on this show because I got a lot of stories, paranormal type stuff, and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, so one of the stories I shared before, I think I was around. I was like 5 or 6 years old. And, back in those days in the 60s, you went over to your friend's house. Your parents said, like, oh, you would ask your parents, can I sleep over at his house, my friend's house? And so, that's what we did back in those days. And so my one of my best friends, I went over to sleep over his house, and he's got kind of like I would say like a twin size bed. And back then, I mean, we had bunk beds where I live, but because of the family, bigger the family, we had bunk beds. But this was like a twin size bed, so him and I like slept together, kind of thing. So, anyways, this is kind of a strange story. You guys will get kind of weirded out maybe about this. So, so I went to we went to sleep, and with our pajamas on and stuff, and it's a little different when you're sleeping, with your friend or whatever. So, you're joking or whatever, and then you end up falling asleep. And so anyways, I'm like sleeping. So we're both like sleeping, and I don't know what time of the night it was. It was probably, I mean, generally when you're like 5 or 6 years old or 7, you're probably going to bed like at 8:30 or something like that. So this must have been maybe around like midnight or something. And I'm like, so I wake up, and I see Danny. I look at his face, and it's like, I see this reptilian looking like entity laying there, like, it's almost like like a lizard, like a lizard face, that kind of face that has and, it's like, he's like sleeping on his back, but it's like a lizard. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, so I kind of turn real slow because I'm on the end, he's on like towards the wall. And then so I can kind of like, so I ended up like getting kind of really scared, kind of. So I kind of slipped off the bed really quietly, and like, really slow, put my leg down, and put the cover so it, he wouldn't wake up or whatever. And then I like went right to the bathroom, and like, I know you guys will probably laugh at this. I ended up sleeping in the bathtub that night. And I don't know in the morning, what they said. And I can't remember that, but I remember and it wasn't a dream. It wasn't a dream, but it was like a reptilian, entity that, and I have no idea, whether this was a shapeshifter or, something that took over his body anyways. But that was a pretty weird story. And I never told. They would probably say, well, why did you sleep in the bathtub? And I never said anything because I didn't want my friend to know. I didn't even want to say anything because, he was my best friend. And but I did notice a couple times, where I used to live in Virginia, around, not at the same time, but there was a couple like circular, because we lived out in the country, and there was a couple circular, like where a flying saucer landed, and they were like real big circles, but they were like the grass was like burnt out, and they were like maybe like, I would say like 9 feet in diameter, not real big. I mean, kind of small because we were pretty small. We had fields in the back of our house and rolling hills, so we were like, it was a new subdevelopment area, and out of Virginia, Western Virginia, and but my sister even said like, "Oh, did you see those? Those circular, flying saucer?" Then she said, "I saw another one up on the hill or something like that." So I thought I'd throw that in as a little bit.
Some questions to you, brother. Sister Monica Davia said, "I have a question for Scott. Did the entity notice him or try to communicate with him?"
Oh, it just stayed asleep. It just stayed. I looked at this face and stuff. I didn't see any hands or any body. It was just like the head. The head was like, and I looked at it, and there was no reflection. Like how like the window or the street light or something like that would shine down. And, it does distort your face or whatever. But no way, man.
Andres
This thing was
Gonzalez also said, "Did you dream of this lizard thing?"
No, this was wide awake, man. I woke up. No way. This is why I woke up and I looked, looked at my friend. I'm going like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. Yeah, that was a strange, I don't know. There's a lot of this abduction stuff going on. So I don't know, or if it's just, taking his body and putting some other body. I don't know. I can't even theorize, but I ended up sleeping. I didn't take my pillow or anything, man. I just went and I was so tired too. I climbed in one of those bathtubs. I don't know if it was an old fashioned one or whatever, but I went to the bathroom and I turned the light out and I climbed in the bath because that's, I was like scared, and then I just fell asleep. In the bathtub. That crazy? Oh my God.
How you doing, brother Juan? Yeah, I mean, I have some experiences of some a reptilian, which seemed like a dragon, like a how should I say dragon, not like dragon shape, but like or a reptilian encounter, but it was a big reptilian. It was pretty huge. But that's when I was a kid, and I'm not trying to make it about me, so I'm going to let you continue. But I do have an experience of something that happened. So I was going to ask you a question. Do you ever find yourself after that encounter, for example, maybe waking up, when you might be asleep and you wake up and you're standing in the living room or in a different location that you don't know how you got there?
I'd have to think about that, but right now I've no.
I mean, at that time when that happened,
Oh yeah, no way,
you
no way. I'm not a
ever wake
sleepwalker.
up like outside your home or
No,
somewhere else that you're like, how did I get here? That you don't
no, it was
know
nothing
how
like
you
that.
got there.
It was a sleepover, and back in the '60s, you slept over at your best friend's house and you had dinner or something with them, whatever. And it's a cool thing to sleep over at somebody's house, and the girls also had those things called slumber parties or something like that too. But it was
Somebody has a
really
question
fun,
here. It says you're still friends with the guy.
Well, I'm friends with his brother, and I'm not sure. That's why I want to travel back east and maybe talk about some of these stories. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think he's like a supervisor in construction or something like that. But I've got a feeling it's kind of like I I don't know if he got in trouble or something like that. That's my intuition. I'm not going to say anything about that, but um, it's um, uh, so yeah, I'm gonna try to see. And this is where I grew up too. So I got family back east, and I live out west, and so uh, um, no, I haven't really heard from him because his brother doesn't really bring him up as much. Like, hey Scott, your friend Danny is waiting for you to come. I never really hear too much. So, but he is alive. But I'm just I don't know, you know, the the communication, but I'm more in communication with his other brother that was like, and we all hang around as a gang. We grew up, and they call like, we wore hoodies before they were even existed. I mean, we had sweatshirts with hoods, man. We'd go out at night and steal light bulbs and all kinds of crazy stuff, man. I mean, our family's like, we're called the hoods. But anyways, no, I haven't talked to him, so maybe I'll look forward to seeing him, this summer. So, but any other
Somebody
questions?
said, "What did you say to your friend the next day after you
I,
got out of the
I
tub?"
I didn't say anything. I just I mean, you got to remember, this is like back in God 19 four
Sister,
or whatever. I'm like 5 or 6.
Madeline wasn't born yet.
Um, well, it's kind of like, you know, I'm just trying to think if somebody came in and say, "Well, why are you sleeping in there?" I can't even remember. Maybe I got out of the bathtub and just shut the door and went to the bathroom, pretended or something. But I never wanted to say anything. I never said anything to him because it's kind of like psychologically kind of scared. Like, well, I don't want to. It's almost like I didn't want to believe it either. You know what I mean? It's like you put it out of your mind, but then you go back in your childhood and start like remembering this stuff, and you're going like, because I'm
What
like,
year was a Roswell incident? Do you remember?
yeah, what about it?
What year was that? Because
That was 1947. And then it was, I mean, Roswell, they had like there were 4 or 5 crashes in the whole different areas too. It was just not Roswell. I mean, there was one in Arizona, there was one in like New Mexico, a couple in New Mexico. I don't know. I mean, that's a complicated story about Roswell where I mean, my belief is the Army was using radar to bring them down because they were in a certain grid pattern, and they turn on the radar to kill their electromagnetic. Anyways, that's a story I heard, but there was a lot of crashes and retrievals. I was
there's a
heavily into that.
question here also. Did you ever see his eyes look like slits?
No, no, it was just definitely sleeping, just like a head of a snake. You know what I mean? Like a monitor, one of those, reptilian. I mean, it was like real smooth, no ears, no like, feathers or anything look, springing out of his head or anything. It was just like, like a salamander, that kind of head, like big though, I mean, like a size of, my head, I guess, as a child, I guess, but yeah, crazy, man. And I don't know what the color, but it was just kind of like I turned and looked, and I'm going like, wow, you know. So, and I woke up again. It was late, kind of late at night, and then I just like slipped out of bed, and oh my god, but I did not say anything, to my parents or nothing, I think you're just like, at a young age. I was like you, Abe, a little bit, be able to see stuff too. When you're young and you see a lot of stuff with your eyes, and you've heard so many stories about you'll tell your parents like, I saw this, I saw that. Oh, that was just a dream, or oh, you're just you're just making it up and stuff. It's like your parents don't believe you. It's like, but no, I didn't tell anybody. It was just, but I always kind of categorize or, I think about my life, like all these different things. And I love doing that, going back to my childhood and I mean, I've had a tremendous, wonderful life. I mean, I've lived all over the world and different states. I mean, that I'm like that Johnny Cash song. I've lived everywhere, So, but yeah, I just like, you know, and I didn't go back to that room or anything until the morning, and I got up, maybe I got out of that bathtub and maybe I was, using the bathroom or something. And they thought maybe I was sleeping, in the bed and got up, but I remember, man, I was so tired and I just got into that bathtub, man. And just like, why the bathtub? I don't know. It's like kind of like a bed, right? Oh my God.
Yeah, I witnessed UFO activity done in the Rio Grande Valley, which is near the border now. They constructed a rocket place. Elon Musk created something or other that I think blew up or something. uh, the Air Force has always been there, but there's always been UFO activity by the ocean and the coastline, where you're able to see unidentified flying objects at nighttime. Uh, I remember I seen one that looked like a big triangle. It reminded me of the ship of Stargate, the video game. I was looking at the clouds and it passed. It was huge. Then I said, was it my imagination that I seen that? But then later on that night, something kept on breaking the sound barrier. All you could hear for a good, I say, good like 20 to 30 minutes, something was breaking the sound barrier where you could just hear boom, boom, where it sounded real loud because it's being broken by something that's moving hell of a fast. So it's going
Yeah.
back and forth and just popping the sound barrier because it's moving very rapidly. The sound barrier is going off like this: boom, boom, boom. So whatever's flying and breaking, making the sound barrier go off like that is moving in very fast. And I remember uh, witnessing that, and of course, seeing this hooded figures. People call them draconians, I guess, uh, reptilian, and they had long tails, and their bodies are huge, and they're wearing like a robe because they're covering the face. They were wearing like this brown robe, color brown, like a dark brown, kind of like the monks will wear, or the monks, or not the monks, the what do you, yeah, the monks, the Buddhist monks, well, kind of like that, but it was color brown, but it was huge, reptilian form that uh, I guess he was using his tongue to try to locate me because had an incident happen where this was asking you the question, Scott. I woke up. When I woke up, I'm standing on the curb up in front of my house,
Mm.
and I don't know how I got there. So as I look to my left, I see my parents and all my other brothers and sisters standing on the curb, and I look across me. The neighbors are standing on the curb. So I look down like this, and all the people from the homes are standing on the curb, like something has some control over the people because nobody's saying nothing. Everybody's like in a hypnotic state. So I freak out and I walk back inside the house. I go and get underneath the blanket, cover myself up.
Mm.
So as I covered up, I heard the door open, thinking it's my mom or dad coming. They're coming back inside the house. Like I said, they're in a hypnotic state. So I see something huge come in the door. You hear something dragging on the ground. Well, what was dragging was a tail. You see,
Oh my God.
it was dragging on the ground. So I'm looking at it, and I'm not trying to move. I'm just staying motionless. It goes into the kitchen. Then you can hear the tail moving around in the kitchen. It comes back out and goes out the front door. When it goes out the front door, maybe like about 5 minutes later, I see air movement outside and people talking, and they're trying to figure out how they got out there, because they don't remember. So they come back inside the house and I guess go back and lay down, but they don't remember how they got out there. So basically, what I'm saying is, I believe they have technology. If you know how hunters, right? Hunters tag animals. Like they tag deer, they tag turtles, sharks, just to see where they go, or how big it grows or whatever. I'm beginning to think that these things have possibly marked us in some kind of way, shape, or form, right? They know where we're at. Uh, they know where we're gone because they're following us. Like you said, you moved to how many different places, Brother Scott?
Well, I mean, I moved through myself, but also my dad was in, he worked for General Electric. So, we moved
I'm
as,
saying that I
you know,
believe that these things, that they know where we at, they know where we live, because they're tracking us. They're
yeah.
tracking us.
Yeah. Well, you know, I never thought of that. I just, I've been fortunate to, have a family that moved, all over the world too. So they invited me to different places like that too. So, I've had a lot of experiences, not supernatural, but, some of them, but, that's a possibility. That, I mean, I could be chipped. I mean, who knows? I mean, how, it, the the possibilities are endless when you listen to a lot of these videos. We don't, we just don't know. But I think it's all demonic. I think that they do have power. That it's when the Bible says principalities of, of the air. Well, break it down. What does that mean? I mean, there could be subsets, not just demonic, invisible entities, but physical enemies that can interdimensionally, come into this realm, walk through walls, bring you through the wall, and different stuff, and chip you, make clones out of you, whatever. But I mean, that's a whole different, can of worms I'm opening up. But um, uh, um, yeah, I mean, and Jesus Christ is the only way. It's the only way to repel, I believe, that because Jesus is the King of Kings, and it says every knee will bow. So that means even all those entities, they're under,
Everything's falling. Everything, even Lucifer
they're
bows
under,
down.
they're under, they're under, the King of Kings. So, these are, maybe God makes a lot of these entities for, his purpose, for something else. Who knows? I read a lot of stories, different stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, speaking of, I have a story of a black triangle. Um, this was on my son's birthday, and we went out to the Olive Garden. I was married, and my son was probably about 5 years old, and 5 or 6. And so we're coming back, and this is March. This would be March 5th in Iowa. And March 5th means that, okay, so winter is over. So, there's not really any leaves yet on the trees, because generally it's April when it starts raining a lot. The leaves will, because Iowa has, this is in Des Moines, Iowa. So it has a lot of trees. So we're coming back, and it's probably about 8 o'clock at night, and it's a Sunday night, and no one's on the road. It's like, well, who goes out to dinner, right? Sunday night, everybody's like, they want to go back to, get home and get ready to go to work or whatever. So we're coming home on this, and my wife is driving, and we have an escort station wagon, those little like it was like a 1998, and they sit real low into the ground, on the from the the wheelbase, they're real low center of gravity car, little small station wagon. And I'm in the passenger side, my son's in the back, so we're driving on a very popular road. It's like one of the main roads, but there's nobody on the road. So up ahead I would be facing, we were driving north, and I see this bright white light, off the neighborhood to the right, maybe like a block over. And it's like, we're coming up to it. And I'm saying to myself, is that a helicopter? What's hovering there? So we're coming closer and closer and closer. So this object was like, and I measured like how far away from the main road it was inward to the neighborhood, because it was paralleling kind of another road, like a what do you call those? I can't think of the term. It's a boulevard, like another boulevard road, like runs parallel. So it was like 400 feet away from. So we stopped right in the middle of where this thing was hovering, and the size of this thing was flat black. And generally, these people that say, they speak about these flying triangles or whatever, they said the lights are on the bottom. These lights were at every corner, but in the front, like the nose, if you could see the point of this, it was in the front. And I would say the light was probably like 3 foot in diameter, but it was like shimmering, like, you ever go inside a pool at night with the pool light, and you go swimming at night and you look at that light, it's like a yellow light, and it's like, like shimmering under the water kind of. And that's the way it looked. All 3 corners had that light, not on the bottom, but in the front and the 2 back. But anyways, I'll describe this to you. So this thing was probably the size of like 150 feet long, because I had worked at the airport, and I used to live in Minneapolis, so I worked at the the airport. So I have a lot of background in different jobs and so forth. So height wise and width wise and so forth. Plus I've been in maintenance my whole life. So this thing was probably about like 150 feet long, and it was like so we stopped, and I said, that's a UFO, So we're stopping in the road. It's a 2-lane road, and we're looking at that would be, we're looking then directly west. So we're both looking, and the windshield of the car, since you're down low, you can kind of see up. It's very easy to see because you're down lower. And so we're looking to the left. And like I said, it was like 400 feet away, because I went back there the next day and measured like how many steps it took me to get in that approximately. The blocks are pretty big there. They're pretty long. And it was flat black, and it was like 150 feet long. And I'll get to the width in a second here. And it had 2 greenish blue lights and a bigger red light like in the middle of that. So you could still see the white lights, the front one, but the ones on the side of it was like 2 greenish blue on each side, and then in the middle a little bigger one, which I would say, I don't know, I would say probably like 2 foot in diameter. Or no, I would say like maybe a foot in diameter, because the other ones are smaller. So it was like, so I was like identifying with the colors, because, I was like looking at this thing, and it was motionless. It wasn't making any noise, but it was like, and the trees, the trees are still, they're pretty high up, and we're like looking through this partially like through the trees because there's no leaves. Again, this is like March 5th. And so I say to my wife, I say, let's chase it. So anyways, we go down like a half a block down and make a left. And by that time, we're coming to the boulevard where this thing is facing then south. So that's when I see the width of this thing. And I'm saying this thing is probably about like 50 feet wide. And in the back, it was the same thing. The two greenish blue lights and a red light in the back. So we saw the side and the back. And after I saw that, after we made that turn, after I said, let's chase it, as we went around, and it's kind of like there's a boulevard is a road that's got the medium in it, like the grass medium in it. So it's in this area that it's hard to get near this thing that was hovering. So we turned down and started following. Well, at that time, after I said, let's follow it, we went down and made a left. That thing started floating, and it was only moving like, I would say, like 5 miles an hour. But again, the height of this was probably, and I wrote this stuff down, and I did submit it to that MUFON journal. You can look, I think it's like 1998. I submitted that in, and the investigator came and gave, we gave different stories of what we saw. And my wife actually saw, because when you interview somebody to see something, they see something different. And my ex-wife, excuse me, saw structure, and I didn't see that. I was like looking at the lights, and I was like pumped up. And so I don't know how thick it was, like how high it was, but she said that she saw how high it was. And I don't know, it could have been, 50 feet high. I don't know what she said, but she wasn't really interested, but she told the gal who was like the director of this MUFON thing of the Midwest, she came out and interviewed both of us, because I was like pumped up about this. And so this thing floated away. And so we tried to chase it. So the way this thing was, it was on it, the road is like askew. So, we were traveling south to try to chase it, but we ended up going more like, in a southwest direction. And this thing was going like a southeast direction. So by the time we got up to the main road to see like, oh, it should be there, like we can see it like hovering, and there was a golf course there and hovering, like floating, but it was gone. By then, by the time we caught up where it should have been, it was gone. But it was like, oh man, it was like unbelievable. No sound, but it was like the size of an airliner, like a 727, like 150 feet long. And it flat black. It wasn't like shiny black, but it was flat black. And but the lights were like, they were huge. They were like 3 foot in diameter, and I think they were kind of they were round, but they had like this fuzziness going around. Like this thing was like anti-gravity, distortion around the lighting, kind of thing. And it made no noise. And
it was a stealth mode.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we saw. And I think it's in one of those journals, like in December of 1998, Des Moines, Iowa, whatever. And I was like really stoked into that, UFO stuff for a while. I mean, after you see something, it's like, it's almost like. It's like that movie you guys probably saw, Close Encounters. What was that? Yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Is that guy? He saw that UFO or whatever, and he started making that dirt mountain in his house, and he like paranoid kind of stuff. I mean, you get kind of like a little bit like that. Like you get so like because you're feeling like this is something that, man, it doesn't seem like it's from our world. Like, your paradigm shifts. That's what
They're getting
happens.
infatuated with it.
Yeah. I started getting, yeah, exactly. I started getting like, I went and got all the magazines, and everything, man. I was like crazy, man, over this stuff. And, I always liked that paranormal stuff. And, it was kind of, I think it was like an awakening for me, and that was a night, like I said, I started to wake up on this cryptid and paranormal stuff like in '95. So this happened actually in '97, which the Phoenix Light. I wasn't, I heard about that, the next or the same year. So I was thinking, wow, this is like this black triangle flap. They call it a flap, that these were seen like in Chicago, all over the place, and, out in the middle of, Iowa's like, what's this thing, doing in Iowa, oh my God,
Is there
it's
a lot
like,
of fields in Iowa?
yeah. They have a lot of horse tracks, outside Des Moines. And I became what they call an intermediate investigator. And I went out and investigated this case. And this lady, get this, man, you won't believe this. She lived like in a farmhouse, and she was a school teacher, because I was involved with the astronomy club and stuff. And, I was trying to like bring some of that UFO, jargon into these, the secular world. And they like looked at me like, are you crazy? Kind of stuff. But anyways, I went out and interviewed this school teacher, because my friend said, hey, this woman saw this triangle really low. And I said, cool. So can I meet her? Can I go out there and, so I went out there and kind of introduced myself to her. And this is what she said. This was like, Iowa had, it's nothing but cornfields outside Des Moines. It's like, it's all agriculture. It's the state is all pure agriculture and banking and finance. That's it. That's the only industry there. Education. It's, good to raise families there and so forth. But getting back to the case here, so I went out there, and this is what she told me. She said, I came home from the grocery store, and I had, back then they didn't have plastic. They had like, paper bags. And she was carrying these bags of groceries into the house. And it's like I would just picture it more like a farmhouse, like, and it was by this like racetrack. And this would be on the east side of Des Moines, kind of the northeast side of Des Moines, Iowa. And you can look it on Google Maps. There's like a track out there, like a horse track or something like that. It's not a race. I think it's more like for horses. And so this is what she told me. She walked to the house and looked up, and this monster of a triangle, it was two. Now get the color of this. This is very strange. There were two triangles the size of, a lot of people, they don't know how to describe the size of things, because, they're not used to looking up in the sky and taking a measurement, a ballpark, measurement, or how, a lot of people aren't that analytical, mathematically analytical. And she was a nurse, but this is what she described. She said that, and I'm going to kind of quote, she said there were two triangles the size of a football field, two of them in tandem. Tandem means they're like linked together, like one's hauling another one. And they're flat, they're flat brown. They're not black, they're brown. And there was like three lights on each side, underneath, going down. And here's the crazy thing she told me. So she put the groceries down, and she's like describing this to me. And I'm like going, oh my God, I've never read anything like this on these people that have, read articles about this. This thing collapsed on itself like, you know, I'm going to kind of describe with my hands. You know, it folded down upon itself, you know, like it collapsed like an arrow, all, you know, all both tandem. It just went like that. And I said, well, how wide was it then? And she said, you know, she said it was wide. She said it was had the width of like a Cadillac. But it folded down on itself, like, you know, and it just shot out like warp speed, like Star Trek. I mean, it just like, I mean, just like took off. And it was probably, again, the height of this thing. I think if I remember right, it was like, I would say 1,000 feet up. Not that high, but 2 football fields long. Can you imagine that thing collapsing upon itself and just like warping out, no sound, just like everything folded down upon itself. So I don't know. I mean, talking about technology, this is like beyond belief. And I didn't report that at all to that MUFON group or whatever, because I found out they're kind of a cliquey group, but that's my opinion. But yeah, that was another that she saw, and she was a nurse, you know, so she's not like making this stuff up. She was like a nurse at an elementary school, and but it was flat brown. You know, I've always read about, you know, these triangles being black, and so this thing was brown. Like I said, well, what color brown are you talking about? And she said, like, and then I said, is it like a Hershey chocolate bar brown? You know, and she said, yeah, that's the kind of brown it was. Not light brown, but more like that chocolate, you know, Hershey bar. But that thing folded upon itself like an arrow, like, and she said the width, just to repeat myself, was like the width of it. I said, well, what was the width before this thing warped out? And, you know, she estimated like, you know, it was only like the width of like a Cadillac. So, you know, you're talking what, you know, 20 feet or whatever, the, you know, the width of that, you know, Cadillac, you know, like a big Cadillac kind of car. So this thing like warped out, but it was tandem, 2 hooked together. Isn't that crazy? You know? So, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, brother.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, there's one thing seeing these triangle, but just this woman saying that it morphed, I'm just going to say my words, you know, but because it's more of a layman's terms, but it kind of morphed into, you know, folding down upon itself like an arrow, you know, like, and then it like warped out, like, just like, you know, shot out with no sound, but just like, you know, just like Star Trek. And it's like, I mean, what kind of technology are we dealing with here? You know, this is beyond, I don't know what. This is like crazy, you know. And so I just took some notes and stuff from her, you know, and, you know, made a ledger and, you know, started like, you know, getting into this stuff. I was like one of these intermediate investigators or whatever. And, you know, yeah, I kind of gave that up after a while because it's kind of a, but anyways, I thought I'd share that too. You know, so I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but I've never heard any of these people, you know, the stuff that I've read, that, you know, some triangle folding or morphing into, you know, a you know, a horizontal spear, let's just say, you know, and I mean, aerodynamically, it makes sense, you know, if they're, you know, into a tubular arrow-like shape, and then maybe they expand themselves when they come down, you know, to hover. I don't know, you know, I mean, I don't know what kind of technology that is, but, you know, it's like airplane wings. You know, when you look at airplane wings, the jets today, those wings are way different than the wings of like a DC-3, which are like, they're so wide, and, and the ones today are meant for speed, right? You look at the new 747, all these jets, those wings, man, are like swept back, and they're not wide like the old, style. They're meant for speed, so those babies can travel, like super high, fast, compared to the old turboprops and stuff, So I don't know. So that was, that's another story, pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
God, jeez, So yeah, yeah, and I think, I don't know if you guys remember, but when I moved to Iowa, it's the people there are like real family oriented, real friendly. Because I previously lived in Minneapolis, and so my wife got a job down there, so we moved down there, and so this one of the ladies came up to me. Actually, this is what happened. How I got into this paranormal stuff, real quick. So I'm the facility manager. Well, actually, I changed my title because I'm thinking, if I get another job, the job title was church sexton, and a sexton, Sexton. And when you look that up, it means you're a bell ringer and a grave digger. So one of my one of my one of my things that I wanted to change was the title, because if I did take another job, I wanted to show people a little higher title. So I changed that to, and the church was good. They sent me to school for maintenance and everything, and I lived in the pastor's house next door. But I changed it to director of building and grounds. So it's the second largest Lutheran church in Iowa. And so anyways, but this girl comes up to me, and she goes, oh, that's right. So at the church, they had a function down in the basement there. And this lady was showing, the pyramids. And I started looking at that, and I'm going, that was the first time in my life, like all this stuff came flooding back. Like, I don't know if you remember, all those shows, on TV about Bigfoot and, the pyramids, Bermuda Triangle. And I'm going like, oh my God, I've forgotten about all this stuff. And so I got to talk with this lady, and she was a photographer, and she went to Egypt and all this stuff. And then and through her, I met this woman, Linda. And, and then eventually she told me about this Art Bell show on the radio. So I don't know if any of your listeners have listened to this nighttime, late night radio show of this paranormal stuff, but I was like an avid listener to that. And that really I was sold, man. I was sold on all that paranormal stuff. I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. So that's just a little history, of my background. But that was like in 95. So I think there's something like, I think if you're interested in something, I think like either God or the angels are, could be involved with, like, if you're really committed, your intent on like wanting to know, certain things, is they put you in a situation where, here's what you ask. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive. Well, I mean, it could be werewolves, it could be Bigfoot, it could be, different stuff, UFOs, to see a UFO in the sky or something like that. And, I just think I think the Lord, I think it's all involved. I think God's all involved with all this. And, you know, it's,
I'll be right back, brother. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah. So I think, you know, it's something to not fear, because I think, you know, fear is what's going on in the world right now. And, you know, everybody is so fearful on the government, the way this country, the way all the world is right now. And, you know, you have to kind of take a step back and, you know, rebuke all that, because, you know, the enemy is always thrives on that fear and, you know, all those bad things. And I think it's important to you know, trust God, that God's in control of all this, and whatever happens politically wise or whatever is, you know, you just say prayer, you know, like, you know, God, just, you know, guide me through the minefields. You know, there's going to be a lot of, you know, stumps here and there. So, you know, it's just like, guide me through this, you know, and, you know, I want to see more of your glory, you know, and, that's all I can say regarding, I mean, I've had a lot of epiphanies regarding, you know, Jesus Christ. And, you know, I was, I've always say to myself, me, why me out of a family of five? Like, why am I the one that, you know, that, uh, that, you know, is involved with cryptids or supernatural things? And I think what it is, you know, personally, I think it's, you know, we are very inquisitive beings, and we love to learn about things that, you know, the mainstream narrative on education and things. And then when you find out that a lot of that's been lies, the books are written for making money, you know, college educations and so forth. But it shows that, you know, that once you know, open up these windows that God opens up, it's like, it like rejuvenates you, like, and, you know, you'll lose a lot of friends, you lose family members, and you'll become, you know, basically a lone wolf in this whole thing. And but I think, you know, if people are into the cryptids and the paranormal, you know, I think it's a special gift that God is pushing people to learn, and also to see this fear as it is, and then not fear, you know, because the more, you know, the more you understand it and how you rebuke it, and, you know, because you become a spiritual warrior, like Abe was saying, like, you become like anesthetized to this, you know, these entities, like Abe was saying, like, you know, I've seen these werewolves and dogmen. It's like, you know, it don't phase me. It don't phase me anymore, because I grew up with all this stuff. So, you know, it's interesting that, you know, he has a foundation that is so, you know, I mean, I got into this stuff at like 35, 38, whatever I was, you know, but not like him. So, but anyways, I thought you know, share those stories, you know, I guess, you know, Abe, what do you think? Any comments? Or I don't know, I've reading
I'm just
any.
listening, brother. It's just it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
we all been affected one way or another. What? Yeah, all throughout our
now,
lives.
yeah. Now, on a lighter side, I got a funny story to tell you guys. This was like 19, let's see, I would say this is 19, between 1985, 1986, California. And so I bought a truck. I bought I bought the showroom truck. It was a Dodge D50 four banger with mag wheels, long bed, and, you know, had stripes on it. It was really a good looking truck. So I had saved up and it was 9,000. So I'd go in there and I want the dealer price, and I was pretty young, I was like, well, let's see, I was still like 30 something. So anyway, here's the story. So I buy this truck and I'm making payments. I put down like $5,000 on the truck, so I'm making these payments on the truck. So and so the job that I had, it was in the sporting goods, and this was a job that I always wanted, and I think this is related to God. I always bring like Jesus and God into these jobs that, like, not that I prayed for it, but it was something like I love to work at sporting goods. So, and I did that for like 5 years. It was a mom and pop store in California, and here's what happened. So the store is it's an old-fashioned store. You walk in, and there's a deer head up there with with a baseball cap on the horns, and I went in there and I got this job. So I'm working at this job, and my coworkers are like into this lottery, and buying tickets, and I'm like, I'm not spending. You don't win at this lottery thing. This scratch off thing. So, anyways. So I had change in my pocket, and they're always like teasing me because I was pretty naive. I knew everything about sports. I think they were jealous of me of that, but I didn't know how to count money. Meaning back then on the register, it wasn't like today where at a register, they give you you input what they give you, and it'll say on the monitor how much to give back. Well, back then you had to count the money out, and I was pretty bad at math, so I had to practice that. So, excuse me. So, I had changed my pocket, and those guys they were making fun of me and everything, and across the street there was a place called Western Union, and they sold lottery tickets there. So they go, Scott, go over there and buy 7 tickets. Here's $1. Everybody's like, because we had like 4 or 5 employees at each store. You have 2 stores, and so they're like, I'm like the gopher, because I was like the latest one that they hired, and so they're always like making me do stuff, and playing tricks on me and all kinds of stuff, pranks and everything. And I was like, I always fell for stuff like that. So anyways, I go, well, okay, I guess since I'm going over there, I'm going to have to buy a ticket, right? So I go over there and I buy 7 lottery tickets, scratch off. And so the increments on these lottery tickets are $5, $500, and $5,000. So, anyways, so we get back and everybody's like, they're all in like a book, they're, like the 7 tickets are together. And I hear a voice in my ear, and I'm standing in the middle of the store, and I hear a voice in my ear saying, take the second to the last ticket. And it was like, it wasn't a male voice and it wasn't a female. It was almost like a blend. And it wasn't, that it was almost like I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But it was an audible voice that was in my head that I heard. And so at that same time, I said, I'll take the second to the last ticket. At the same time that voice told me. So, of course, those guys were grabbing the tickets, and, they're very bullyish, and everything. And so I get my ticket, and everybody's like scratching off with their nickel, and seeing if they're win. And so I'm scratching off this ticket, and I'm like taking my time going, oh, you don't win at this thing, So I'm scratching. So I get like I think it was like $2, $500, and $5,000. I think the increments were like that. So I'm like scratching, and I got two 500s and two 5,000s. And then, I got another square to scratch. And then this guy, one of my coworkers, is like leaning over me going, "Are you done yet?" or whatever. And I'm going like, well, if I get another 5 and 2 zeros, I'm going to win $500. So, I'm scratching. I get the 5 and 0, 0, 0, $5,000. And my coworker grabs my ticket, and runs up to the boss's office. "Oh, Scott, he won $5,000, scratch off, And, but I heard that audible voice tell me that. So eventually what I think on my path with God is, I think that, I paid off my truck. I got a camper shell. And after like a year or a year and a half, I ended up quitting my job, and like I think I had mentioned this once before about my life being like, what's the word? Being guided, like where God wants you, like what state or what city or whatever. And somebody talked me into Minneapolis. So, I took 3 months, man, and I toured all the West and up to Canada in my truck. And, but yeah, I paid off the truck, and, but it was a crazy story, a true story, and I think back then they only taxed, I think I had to go to San Jose, and they only taxed like it was 4,800, instead of they take like $200 out of tax. And, so it was like a way of like, and then like I moved to Minneapolis, and then I think it was a year or half a year after that big earthquake happened in the Bay Area, and everything got destroyed, that earthquake, in Oakland and everything. And I'm going like, man, if I would have lived there, I would have been out of a job, So, and then, because I left there in 88. And I think that earthquake happened in 89, I think. And it was Santa Cruz, got destroyed, and, the bridges fell down in the Bay, San Francisco Bay Area, those Bay Area, all that stuff. And, but I think that was an act of God. I mean, it was like God sent me an angel. I mean, this is my own opinion, but I think he sent me an angel saying, "Hey, we got plans for Scott, and you got to get him out of there," So, because the people that convinced me to move to Minneapolis was another angelic type, situation. So, I've been very, very fortunate, to have that voice, tell me, take the second to the last ticket, and those guys didn't rip it, or, they were like taking the tickets, because, it's like free for all, right? And it's like that ticket was meant for me, So isn't that crazy? Oh my God, So, that's what I think God can do, if he's got a plan for your well-being. And, so I think that's, it's concerning my life is, I've had all those sorts of things all through my life. Like God is like, he's like your big brother. Like he guides you, like, what to get into, what not to get into, and, you listen, And, of course we all make mistakes and so forth, but, we're always guided back to, the proper way. And, that's my own, a little bit of my own path with, Lord Jesus Christ, And so I thought I'd just share some of those stories.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
How you doing, Andres?
Oh, hey, Scott. I didn't say anything earlier because I didn't want to interrupt Scott. Also, hey, everybody in the chat. I'm doing good so far. And I just wanted to add on to what Scott has said about like praying to God about something to see to happen to you, about seeing cryptids. I actually prayed to him a couple of times that I actually wanted to see something like you would see on TV. And one of the earlier lives that I joined, I mentioned I ended up seeing the same red dots that I've seen pretty much like everyone in the world. And I was shocked because it was more or less in front of my front house. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, he definitely answered me there because I got what I wanted.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. And I also think it's, what can we handle? Like, um, what can we handle and what we can't handle. And I think God, like, he knows, our intent, or, I'm a risk taker anyways, but it's kind of like, or how much of a risk taker are you, Scott? That's what God probably says. Like, you're not gonna do this or that. So I'm kind of a conservative risk taker, I would say. But yeah, it's amazing. Um, what you know what and I've said this many times on the show, is you look back on your life, go back like a diary in your mind, like all these different, instances that you can, try to write them down, you know, because I write down all the jobs that I used to have, and like, and then try to equate them to, God, and, what was the purpose of that job? Did you fail at a job and get another job, the same job, and try and, make it better? That kind of thing. Like, you tripped up on a job and you keep doing the same job over and over again until you learn something, you know, different stuff like that. So, I don't know, I think when I meet my maker, he's going to say, well done, Scott. I've never seen anybody have over 35 jobs in his life. Oh my gosh, I'm just being humorous, but oh my gosh, I like shake my head going like, I've been on everything, food stamps, you name it, from the bottom
Yeah.
to the top, you know, and I don't know. I think I just meant to, be a teacher to people that, whether you're homeless or whether you're, a multimillionaire, maybe God has, used me to interface with people, different jobs or whatever, and try to bring the gospel to them. Who knows? But so that's the. I mean, what makes a guy get, so many jobs, or move so many places? I mean, it's like crazy, because you got to start over. You know, resumes, I mean, it's not easy. And as you get older and older and older, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. So, it's but yeah, God is in control, and he'll give, you know, he'll give you the breathing room, and, you know, he'll save you. He'll save you for sure. You know,
Yeah, he would. I wanted to just comment that Texas made. When I mentioned red dots, I meant that sometimes in the media, there'll be a bunch of dots in the shape of a triangle that would appear. There's some videos on it, Texas. That's what I meant. And about God helping out, I was what do I say? For years, I ended up lying to myself that it was normal to only be able to seeing one eye, and because of that mistake, I'm now blind in my left eye. It wasn't until I went into an appointment. This was back in 2011 or 10 that I actually decided to tell the truth. about it, and my mother at the time thought I was joking that I was lying. It wasn't until they took an X-ray behind my eye that they saw that the blood flow to my left eye had basically been cut off. Very little was flowing through, and I thought that was normal because I always believed that everybody can only see out of one eye. And when they did a diagnosis, I was very close to actually losing my vision in both my eyes until I decided to actually speak up and say the truth. And I had to go into a surgery basically overnight, and I had to go to Chicago that very same day. I was seen by
Well,
a few doctors, and most of them didn't know what was wrong until they decided to do a full body examination and found out I was actually diagnosed with a rare bone disorder. My bones are different than most people, and they had to do surgery on me. That was very risky. That if it had failed, I would have ended up losing vision in both of my eyes.
wow.
The disorder that I have is actually very rare, and according to an eye doctor that I recently visited a few months back, I was actually one of the few cases that was successful in order to keep my condition from progressing. And in my case, it was an extent very aggressive. And I know that because my eye doctor told me that they had another case of a girl who they could not save her vision, that she ended up losing both sides of her eyes permanently.
Wow.
My I know my mother prayed for me that the surgery would go well. I'm not sure if I did, given how young I was, but God can certainly very much help you in your life, everyday life. My mother, my most of my family is Catholic, so we obviously believe in that. But I do feel at times that no, Texas, it was not a form of cancer, but my oh, um, I said aggressive was because the first surgery I had, they told me that it was growing, spreading. Well, I guess in a way it could be similar, but it's really not. They told me to tell my mother if I ever felt my vision was going black in some spots, in which case it did, and I needed another one because the bone was growing back and it was coming back rather aggressively, which surprised them. So they had to redo it, and they had to go in, shave off some bone, through my nose, which was inside of it. So it's not cancer, but I definitely affected me for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, I lost track. What was I saying?
Well, you're just talking about the prairie, praying, um, and the procedure of
Oh,
working
right.
out
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, I mean that's the you know prayer is like I never grew up. I never grew up with. I mean, we used to say like pray before we eat or something like that. But what is prayer? What is the power? I never learned that. My parents were Catholic, my mom and stuff, and I grew up kind of like atheist. Like uh, you know what what is the power of prayer? What is the what is the what does that mean? And it's something that's be frank with you. Yeah, you know, I mean, I was I never grew up with that at all. You know.
Yeah, prayers. My mother definitely prayed for me, and my family prays at times too, especially during Christmas. I did a few prayers, and most, if not all of them, were all answered. I know they were. Uh, I did a prayer one time. I asked him to show me to see if I had a chance to be with someone, that I could find someone for myself. And I'm not sure how long after that, but I was going to a local store near my home, and this old woman appeared. What she said surprised me and kind of, uh, I won't deny it, I felt very weirded out and standoffish because her exact words to me were, "You have very beautiful eyes," which caught me off guard because I never expected that to happen, especially so close to my home. So I kept thinking about that, but I did say, "Thank you, God," if that was you. So prayer definitely works. It's just, it obviously takes more than a little time, but it will inevitably happen.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
cool. Pretty cool.
that's
Yeah.
something that shocked me. And this was obviously someone on the older side, and she was a bit heavy as well.
Mm.
Right. I'm gonna go on to what I was originally going to say. I was actually going to mention another glitch in the Matrix encounter that I had, but it wasn't like the last two times that I had. Did you hear about them, Scott? I'm not sure if you were here or not.
I don't know. Go ahead. You know, I like to
Uh,
hear even stuff being repeated. I like to hear about it. You know.
yeah, I've seen what appears to be a big black cat, but it only appeared for a split second. And if I had to compare it to any animal, it would either be like a cougar or a jaguar. But I thought it would be very young. That's the closest I can compare it to. It appeared for a split second in my backyard and another in the kitchen, and it wasn't long, but those were the encounters that I told on another live of Abe's. Have you had anything like that happen to you?
No, I really haven't had. Um, you know, I talked about one time those three triangles were actually three rectangles that appeared in my room. You know, in the shape of like a right triangle. Um, you know, they like popped in, like snapped in, like like that, loud. And you know, I had mentioned like I was laying in bed looking, and that thing snapped in, and I said, "Who are you?" And then within like 20 seconds, that thing like snapped out. It's like it went, you know, boom, in, out. But the you know, geometric shape. Um, and I think I went up and looked what that meant. It's called the golden ratio or something like that. Like, you know, I have a lot of mathematics background and stuff. You know, I
Can
took,
you hear
you know,
me?
you know,
Yeah, we can hear you.
calculus.
Yeah, it wasn't letting me get on and back on. I don't know what was the matter with it.
Take it
And
over.
yeah, I'm taking a little. I had to take a snack break. Uh,
No,
yeah, I heard about you seeing those red dots again, and Andres, near your home. That you said something about in the front.
Oh, this was back then, Abe. It wasn't recent. I was just
Oh, okay.
answering a question that Texas said when he said in the chat red dots. He didn't understand what I meant. That it
Oh,
was just red dots that are basically seen all over the media. I was just giving him like some videos to look up to type in the search bar. I haven't seen them recently. This was back in 2020 or 2020 or 2021, and this was on the 4th of July, and I know that it wasn't recent, so I was just replying to Texas's question. Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, I was just listening.
Right, Scott. So you were saying about the golden ratio, apparently.
Well, I think I had mentioned this story before, but you're saying, Matt, have I ever seen any like glitch in the matrix or manifestation and the um, like I repeated, I'm just going to repeat this real quick. Is I'm laying in a futon, one of those, it's a children's, bunk bed futon type thing. And I'm laying in there, in a different room, and I don't know why it was there, but the windows were shut and everything was shuttered, and I was just drifting off to sleep. It was like close to midnight, and all of a sudden I hear this, this snap, and it's like I mean, if you guys can hear that, but it was like, a snap, but louder, louder than like that, and so what appeared was like three rectangles, which were like, 8 inches long each, like an inch wide, in the shape of a right triangle. So you're talking about one here, and then one over there. That kind of angle. And I'm laying there, and it's white, making no noise, not vibrating, no smell, no ozone or anything like that, no sulfur smell or anything. And I was just starting to drift off, and that thing snapped in, and I said, "Who are you?" And then within and this only occurred like I would say 20 seconds. And who are you? And it snapped right out, but it was like it was clear. I mean, it was clear. It's pitch dark in the room, and no street light coming through or anything, and it like just winked out. And then I went to look up, you know, because I took a lot of mathematics and stuff, and I mean, it's kind of weird when you know, you know, for example, I'm into music a lot, and music is mathematics, and it's like I was always terrible at mathematics, and I'm more of an ear person, like listening ear wise to listen to music and create it, and so I don't know. I looked that up, and it said something like the golden ratio or something like that, you know. And but I took, I was in an engineering dorm at University of South Florida, and all these people are like, uh, heavy metal nerds, smoking pot, and it's a medical school and engineering school, and I was like, I wasn't really, I was into the natural science zoology, side of it, but I took a lot of mathematics and stuff, and I hated it. I hated it, and but anyways, getting back to this thing that appeared, you know, um, uh, in every job, especially in maintenance, everything is mathematics too. You're measuring, everything has got to be precise too. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but this thing was probably about, I would say 2.5 feet long as far as distance wise. So it was like a compact right triangle. And but anyways, that was something that manifested, from some other realm, you know, crazy, huh?
Yeah, it is.
You know, no fear, it's like, um, you just get into this cryptid paranormal stuff, and you just want to, like, who is the person behind the curtain? Who's operating this stuff? Like the Wizard of Oz. Who is the wizard? Who is this? And I just always have my jobs and stuff. Like, we'd have staff meetings. I would say, like, well, who said that? Who said that? And when you're working for government, you don't question things at all. Especially I worked in the military, and like, you don't question like people. And I would say, who's the boogeyman? you know, I was, because I was like, God, doesn't anybody want to tell the truth? Doesn't anybody want to reveal who, why we have to do this, or why we have, even my superiors, like my bosses are like, God, you guys are and I didn't want to become a supervisor or whatever, because it's like, no, I don't want to kiss, what, right? So I'm like a lone wolf. I do my own thing, So it's kind of like, it's like I've always like been a truth seeker, my whole life, and I think, if you're looking for the truth, there's a lot of stuff out there that's, not of the truth. Like Abe was saying in the beginning, all these governments are corrupt. I mean, you got institutionalized people in there that, I mean, they're under a spell, man. They're just, these people are whacked out of their minds. And I don't want to go too much into, the different types of, systems there are, but, people do whatever they, to get ahead in the game. And I was never a part of that. I wasn't that type of person. I was always a person sticking up. I mean, I even got fired from county, like city jobs, because I stood up for like the minorities, because I like talking about reverse, discrimination. I was like fired because I was like, well, you're siding with the Hispanics, like, racist kind of stuff. And it's like, and then they gave an ultimatum, like, we can fire you or you quit. And I'm going like, you can fire me. I ain't quitting. I did nothing wrong, that kind of stuff. But, it's sticking up for yourself, and other people, and there's still, predominant, a lot of racism out there, against, Hispanics. And I, to be honest with you, the people I get along with are minorities, plus they know a lot more about paranormal stuff, than the Caucasian white race does. That's for sure. So there's something in common that I have, because I've had a lot of Native American friends and Hispanic friends, and I just get along. I don't know. It's just a social type thing, but they I think they're more minorities. In a way, I think they're a little bit more watchful on things that there is a deep rooted racism through where they grew up, and so they're I think they like me because it's like I team with them, because it's like but you have to suffer the consequences sometimes, and get fired, or whatever, and life goes on, so crazy, huh?
Yeah, it is crazy.
So,
Well, back to what I was going to say about the glitch in the Matrix. I wanted to see, seeing so you're also on here, Scott. I would like also your opinion on what you think. I actually ended up seeing what appeared to be a large snake that pretty much slid across both my feet. And when it did, I couldn't make out the shape. It just it was invisible. But it also I noticed it because it was able to disorientate space because I saw the outline of it. And what shocked me was because I wasn't by myself. I was actually at a bus stop. There were two other people with me. They didn't see it, but I did, and I jumped back. They gave no reaction to me jumping back either. I was just wondering, like, am I going insane or am I actually seeing these things? Wanted to see what you two thought about that.
No, you're sensitive. You know, you're seeing this stuff. It's like I mentioned once before. Out of your periphery of your eyes, if you look at the stars, with binoculars, or just look up in the sky, where it's dark and look at skies, your periphery is like more clear than looking at. So you look at it a lot of through the side of your eyes is like it's like you're able to see you know, a vision that's not part of your vision. It's like supervision, but you have to kind of like, you know, that's why like these people, they see these things like running past them, like what was that? And they turn their head and going like a shadow or something, and they go, oh, that was nothing. But their periphery is catching that. It's catching all that. So I
I
think
think
that's what's going on with you.
the video that Showrunner created on TikTok for the two that are one standing out of the wall line and one behind him with a white face. That one's got like over 1,000 views right now on TikTok. The Showrunner created, but yeah, they're everywhere. You'll be surprised when how close they can get to you. They can be right there by you. You don't even see them. The only thing is your senses when they kick off. They know there's danger around as you go into prayer.
Hmm. What that's
But
the thing
Trump's
about this. I
yeah, almost that time. Did you want to share something else, brother Andres?
no, I can't really think of anything else aside from something that happened like maybe yesterday or something. Scott,
Mm-hmm.
when you mentioned earlier when a voice told you to grab that lottery ticket, I was buying something at a store. There was a quarter on the floor. Somebody picked it up, put it on the counter near the cashier. Something in my, I heard a voice in my head tell me grab the quarter. As I obviously bought my items, as I was walking out, I decided to look at the quarter and the quarters they have like the years they're manufactured and
Yeah.
the year that it was manufactured on. I looked at it and I was, I pretty much said in my mind, like, okay, I pretty much said, damn, I didn't. I said that because the exact year it was manufactured was the same year I was born, so that surprised me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. All these like iron or coincidental. What do they say? Deja vu things that happen. I mean, it's to be like more aware of these certain things. To be, I always thought like you know catching it at the same moment, like it's happening. Have you ever like things like that, right? So if something happens, like catch them in the act, like an angel's doing this or that, and like be in the you know in sync with it at the same time, you know, because it's always after the fact. You do something like something angelic happens to you, or something happens, but you think back, oh man, I should have reacted at that time, or I should have done this, I should have done that, but to try to like tag it like at the same time. um I uh yeah, it's pretty cool. it's really, you start to think like, hey, something's going on here. Who's showing me, who's showing me this? And, it's like a wake up call, it could be something, like, I'm watching through your eyes, I have this gift. I don't know. I don't know if I still have it, but I used to see a lot of stuff through my eyes, like, I don't know, like some gift that was given to me. Like, I started doing it with the cameras, taking pictures about stuff. And like Abe was saying, he was taking pictures and then you look at the film and stuff. But I was able to like see stuff in the sky. And the thing, is see like different things, like being more perceptive, of things. And I'll give an example. So I used to start at 6. So I'd get up at 4, 3:45 in the morning every day. And I'd have my coffee and stuff, watch TV in the morning or something. So one particular morning, I get up, I get my clothes on and everything. And I go in the backyard and something like tells me, to look up in the sky, and it's black, 4:00 in the morning is dark, stars, everything's still out, right? Look up. And it's like, I didn't hear a voice or anything, but it's almost like an unction or just like you find yourself looking up and then you think back like, why was I looking up at that? Oh, I know why. Something told me, you'll say that later. But I looked up, I saw the star, right? I'm looking up at this particular star. This other star comes by and takes its place. And the other one like disappears. I'm going like, no way. No way. No way. I'm thinking, these stars are not stars, what we're thinking. What are they? And I would tell people like, yeah, I saw a star. It was replaced by another one. And they're like looking at me like, are you crazy? Isn't that wild? God. But something told me, like just like it told you, like pick up that quarter. It's got a message for you. Take a look, see. And then, like you said, it's got the same date you were born. Like, it's just like a reminder. Hey, we're with you. We're showing you things. And, we want to be your buddies. We want to be close to you. We want to, because you're thinking outside the box. You're thinking outside this matrix. And maybe one of these days of people, all this cryptid stuff or whatever these things are happening, maybe we'll be the teachers, of the future, or teaching people, about stuff that if it goes sideways in this country, maybe we'll be the teachers, on keeping people from going crazy, from shutting down, mentally, physically, spiritually. We could be the teachers that, that God's this, spiritual warfare that Abe is talking about. Hey, if these entities become loosed, out of the atmosphere and out of the ground, and these become, physical, things, we may be prepared for that and be able to, shelter people or do other things. So, it could be, we're soldiers, put on the full body of armor, and be a soldier for God, So, all these things but I think you got to be, aware of this stuff. Like, wow, I picked up a quarter. I mean, even that little thing like that, it like blows your mind,
Yeah, it does.
you know, it's like, man, there's somebody loves me, you know, like somebody is like looking after me. I mean, it's like there's some kind of equation built in here, like there's somebody watching me and guiding me and, you know, you know, making me become more perceptive, you know, not just like looking at the ground. You know, a lot of these people, they walk around, they never look up. You know, it's like never look up in their lives. They never look up at the sky. You know, there's like looking down at the sidewalk all the time. And it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy about that part of never really looking up, always just falling in line like pretty much a machine, and never thinking for yourself. And I will admit, I do catch myself doing that. I just walk forward. I sometimes look down, but I just make sure, like, that's not bad of it to make sure I'm going where I'm going. And I know there is obviously something out there watching over me. And I do find myself doubting that, but I'm always given a reason to rethink, like, there's something out there. I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
Oh, that's fine. I was just listening. Yeah, getting a little bit tired now. It hasn't I slept all afternoon. Been a little bit sluggish, but it's open mic night. It's just trying to find your path, your journey in life, and we all go through it. We have to find what side we're going to be on, the good or the bad. There's only two sides. Spiritual vision, lane vision. Yeah.
Like,
Man,
well,
trying to comprehend things, and you got to corner cub, get things, you know, on you that is preventing you from making a positive change in your life.
mhm. Well, I'm gonna sign off, fellas, because I can't really don't know what else to talk about. So I wanted to thank
Alrighty,
both
brother.
of you
Hey,
for
buddy.
your
You're
input and for talking with me. And thank you, A, for the channel, and thank everybody in the chat. Because I pretty much I'm just out of gas. I already used up everything that I gotta say right now.
already, brother. You have a blessed evening, blessed
You as
morning.
well.
See ya. Yeah. Yeah, Abe, it's a different world out there now. You know, people, the fear factor and, the uncertainty and, political and militarily,
Yeah.
um, worldwide countries, governments. I mean, it's you know, and everything is being just exposed. I mean, you know, and
Yes.
I mean, to me, I enjoy it um, because it's like, hey, finally, this stuff is, you know, being exposed, and yeah, I still agree with you. It's like, how can an election be stolen right in front of your face and nobody does anything? You know, I always said, like, where's the military? Why don't they step in and do this thing called a force de jour, which means, if you're unhappy with your government, the military has a right to go in and take over the government, because it's for the people, it's by the people. And, when that election happened, when Biden won, and, what I'm just trying to say here is, when you get an election stolen and it goes on and on, it's like, even that for 4 years to go on and on. I mean, to me, that rubs me the wrong way, because it's like, you know, why are these people putting their
Yeah.
tail between their legs and not saying anything? I mean, I'll say, like a lot of people say, well, we're under the spell of Satan or whatever. I mean, we could be, it could be, the powers to be that are controlling everything, and they've got everybody blackmailed. So, but it's like, oh my God, I mean, it's like blatantly, it's in your face, and it's like, I just can't believe everybody just, they didn't do anything. I just, to me, it's like, what a disappointment, in a nation. I mean, gosh, wow, you have all the armed services, the Marines, all these people, and there's no like, it's incomprehensible. I guess that's the only word I can think of. It's there's got to be some sort of higher, demonic, invisible force that's doing this. And do I know? No, I don't know. But
This is what it is.
see,
'Cause
the
I
magnitude,
see what you can do.
the
It,
magnitude of this is
it can leave
tremendous.
residue, not show itself, then it shows itself, and just like that, as soon as it disappears, it's uh, like it went back to his body or it's transformed into something else. A lot of native lands used to be native Indian burial grounds. They built over them, so that's not good because they're cursed.
Yeah, yeah, and
So,
yeah, I got
would you like to say something else before we go?
no.
I
I
think
think that's.
we got like
I'm
15
about.
minutes. I think we're at 2:42.
Yeah, all I can say is, you know, um, I did a lot of researching Native American Indians, because when you start to listen to, we used to have chat clubs and stuff that were kind of an offshoot of Art Bell show. It was called Art Bell Chat Clubs, and you started these clubs, and I was like the treasurer for one of these clubs, and you would listen to, we would recruit some of these speakers that would come in, and always felt, that the Native American Indians, there's a lot of hidden knowledge, that because they don't really write books, this is handed down like by the word, and then you hear some of the elders, speak about, the coming catastrophes, or, the ant people, which they mentioned are the gray aliens or whatever, and they live in the ground. And they actually saved some of the Native American Indians too on catastrophes and so forth. But I think they have a quite a extensive history on these entities, and growing up as a a white Caucasian kid or whatever, this stuff was never talked about at all. But I later in life, I met a lot of these people. I used to go to powwows and stuff, and try to get an understanding of, like, meeting a culture that is goes way back, before before the soldiers, of America came to take their land, and the Cherokee, and you learn about those languages, and I mean, this, especially the Cherokee, language and their symbols. I mean, this stuff is like almost Egyptian. It's like, it's very sophisticated. And it's like, where do they get this language stuff from? I mean, this is like ancient stuff. So, I had friends that were Diné, which is the Navajo tribe. And I had a guy that roomed in my house for like 5-7 years, and he was Navajo, but he would go up to the reservation and preach Jesus Christ. I mean, crazy, isn't it? It's like, he's like Navajo, and I'm going like, where this girl gets this guy, like, because I said, I need somebody to, rent. I need a room to rent, rent out, because I got to pay my mortgage and stuff. So this guy comes in and he's like, and he's like, solid, and he actually got married to a girl from Yuma, and she was blind. And but anyways, he would tell me he would go up to the res, and he was like a pastor, and things are so connected, with Jesus Christ. I mean, I just can't believe that, that a lot of these things are all connected, to the one source, to, Yahweh, Yod He Vod He is the, the tetramanogon, whatever symbol or whatever of God or whatever. But Jesus, he's the King of Kings. And, I think the closer you get, to Jesus.
You said the word, brother, Scott Baker, the King of Kings.
Yeah.
That's what the protesters were doing. Always saying no kings, no King of Kings, no kings.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Can you brief me about that again? Because I missed all that. I don't know.
All I know is that they're protesting ICE and stuff like that. Saying he's being a king or a ruler, right? That he's got the ICE capturing all the legal immigrants that they through the Hunter administration. I mean, Obama, Bin Laden. Now, Sleepy Joe, right? So this way he's cleaning up the streets, getting rid of people that they're allowed to come into the United States without a passport and stuff like that. That's what he's doing. So during his birth, I guess it's supposed to be his birthday. They want to go cause a riot, trying to cause riot. They were breaking things. It's not a peaceful protest when bricks are being thrown, whatever they get to hand is being thrown on the officers. That's not a peaceful protest, but that's why they're saying no kings, no kings. Well, there's one king that's coming in due time, and we already know who he is.
Yeah. There's no coincidence in that.
So the demons within them, what I see, have them bonded, doing that. For Democrats, well, the Democrats are partying away because they just extended their warranty. With those people going in the street saying no kings, no kings. But then he's coming. When he comes, we'll know. Everybody will know. But that's what I got. It seemed kind of odd to me when they're saying no kings, no kings. Why would they say that? And then I was like, it's got to be deeper than that, and that's what it is. And he's still popular regardless of what comes out of his mouth. But we'll see what happens.
Here's my werewolf, my baby werewolf.
So how's everybody doing tonight in the chat? I think the chat is fighting trying to fight the sleep like I've been trying to fight it for the past hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, I've been fighting this cold.
Trying to sneak up on me.
Yeah, I think I'll sign off too because I'm
Alrighty, brother.
Yeah, I'm just I'll see you on the slide there.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so yeah, appreciate your holding the show platform.
No problem, brother.
That we can talk about Jesus Christ. I mean, you have to really bring that into the mix all the time because you know it's it's the it's a wonderful opportunity to know Jesus Christ and to be guided and then find out uh, um, and then look back at your past like how that happened.
Yeah.
There's no this stuff is planned out and I mean it's just my own personal walk, but it's you get on fire, you want to talk to people, and it's funny that like God will put you with people like in a line, like you're at Big Lots or whatever, Home Depot, whatever, and they'll be in line, and you'll start a conversation with somebody, and all of a sudden it's like both of you got something in common, and it's generally I would say 80% of the time it always comes into like some kind of ministry, Jesus Christ, talking about God or something. That's me. I mean, I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
it's like it's the coolest thing. So anyways, folks, I'm gonna sign off, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, brother. Thank
All
you.
right, Abe. Thanks for the show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody out there. See ya. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. Open mic night is about to finish. I try to get people to come and share their experiences, their stories. Spiritual warfare is very real. It's a daily thing. Uh, like all the time that I was doing video right now, I'll tell you what I was seeing. Uh, I kept on seeing uh, these dark shadow figures all throughout the video to my left, to my right. But they were in the form of like a Black Panther. This is what I kept on seeing all throughout the video. So I would look to my left, and then I would look to the right because I was seeing this kind of dark shadow figure. So I'm going to do a little prayer before we go. Heavenly Father, this time I would like to type and rebuke any negative energies that might have tried to attach or enter with please spiritual crosses of the doorways and the windows on me from head to toe, on the viewers from head to toe. So we take authority in Jesus Christ's name. You're not allowed to be amongst us, on us in any kind of way, shape, or form. We type and rebuke in Jesus Christ's name. Leave my home. You're not welcome here. Amen. Yeah, all throughout the show, I kept on seeing things, images, shadow figures in the form of animals. At first, when I looked to my left, I thought it was my dog Rebel that was laying down here on the ground. And I was like, that's pretty big. So when I looked, there was nothing there. And I kept on seeing it to the right of me. It could be also that I'm tired, so I need to get some rest. I want to say thank you. I was looking for a photo, uh, but I can't find it right now. Maybe I'll share it tomorrow when we go back to the live. I'm thinking about, but tomorrow's Werewolf Wednesday. But one day, what I'm gonna do is work on all the photos that I have with glitches, and I'm gonna do a live and share them out to whoever is interested in how they can affect our environment around us, cause manipulation, or affect our our surroundings with a magnetic disturbance that's gonna affect your phones or your equipment and try to affect you. That's why it's important to maintain a heavenly love foundation daily, brothers and sisters. I do not know Texas Learning if Jesse will be here tomorrow. No, he's going through the things that he's going through. Whenever he decides to come back, well, I think he might. Depends how it goes for him tomorrow. But he'll let me know something tomorrow. I will. In saying that, brothers and sisters, good night, everybody. God bless you. This is RCS, Brother HCS. But let it hit the 3 hour marker, and I'll call it a night. Yeah, but since it's the allergies also that I have the allergies. The allergies with the itchy eyes, the redness, and then things that are coming out through my tear ducts because it's retaining water. It could have affected my eyesight, but spiritually, I could tell something wasn't right, so I prayed right now. But it's not here anymore. And there's lighting from the light here on the ground. It just looked. I thought it was Rebel, but it wasn't. Rebel was laying down on the couch. Well, brother Lau Morgan, I appreciate y'all for those that tune in here on Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. Like I was saying earlier, I'm going through some things with allergies. They're pretty bad right now. That's you know taking it one day at a time. In saying that, brothers and sisters, we still got a couple more minutes. Yeah, I'll be. We won't be doing those shows. I'll be gone for a couple of days at the beginning of the month. I'm thinking on the from the 3rd to the 6th, somewhere around there. There won't be no show here in Spiritual Encrypted Encounters uh, because I'm going to a wedding out of state, and then we're also going to make it a little reunion from my combat brothers I haven't seen over 30 something years. Last time I seen them, I was only 19, so it's going to be good to see them. But with all the things happening right now, hopefully the airlines don't cancel all flights because of terroristic threats or something like that. I'm just going to leave it all up to the Heavenly Father. The Heavenly Father, brother and sisters, He's amazing. He's awesome. If Andres is still here, whenever you see something, brother, uh, whether it's those little red dots that you keep on seeing, which I know what that signifies, a little 3 dots. Somebody was with a laser gun, with a weapon, because if you get a laser gun, those 3 dots can be like that. So I know this happened to you a long time ago, but also three dots could be demonic because they're always doing things in threes. Scratches, bite marks, sticky like marks. It'll all be in threes. You hear where they tap 3 times on the window. I'm more sure that's happened to everybody here. Then you're like, you don't think about nothing about it. Then the following day, you hear 3 knocks. God, God. You're like, whoa. I said, it's probably nothing. It's probably nothing. Then the following day, you hear boom, boom, boom. Well, whenever you hear the 3 tappings, go to work automatically and tell the unclean spirit, I tie binary rebuke in Jesus Christ. I take authority over you. I tie binary rebuke in Jesus Christ's name. And it will flee. Imagine that. Doing things in threes. Yes. Going on a trip for the first times ever. I never. Last time I was on a plane is when they flew me from Germany to the United States. So that's no. So when I was in an accident, I think I flew. We flew in '95 when we went to guard the border. So in '95 was the last time that I went on an airplane ride. Yeah, I will. I'm hanging in there. I don't know if you noticed this morning outside, there was a lot of pollen in the air. Uh, it was pretty bad. But that's at the end of the month. Tonight, we will have War Wednesday. Hopefully, cousin Jesse can join him. Not, I'll go solo again. And if even on show, then I can always get anybody from the wherever wants to join me tomorrow. You're more than welcome. He's going through his own thing, so I just tell him to take the time that he needs to recuperate. We all have to take time for ourselves. And one of the things I want to do also is stay active, go do more investigations, and see what I capture, so I can share with you all here in Spiritual Cryptid Encounters. As y'all seen earlier, somebody interrupted what I was talking about. Guess what they do? And we already know who that is. That's why they got put it out. But anyways, good night. My condolences to you, Sister Neva's Angels. I'm sorry for your loss. Okay, I will. I used to be in a different one, but that one, it wasn't working for me, so they gave me a different medicine. Just can't remember it on the top of my head. Take a allergy pill every day. It just ran out. Okay. Yeah, you gotta have your faith. Always maintain your Heavenly Love Foundation, and don't try to get involved in the chaos and the division. Uh, of these people that are truly terrorists, because they'll go to a building and blow it up. They don't care if there's children or women in there. So I say just stay out of it. I mean, he said it himself. They've been fighting for a very long time, and I don't think they're about to quit either. Saying that, Good night, everybody. God bless you all. See you all later on tonight. This is Brother Abe Cias. Sir, I'll see you signing off. Good night, everybody.